Chapter 1. Suffern. The wound is the place where the light enters you. Rumi. November 22nd, 2013. 4.25 years ago, while I was on my way to visit with my daughter Jessica at the Helen Hayes Brain Rehabilitation Center upstate, I drove past a sign that read, "You are now entering the town of Suffern." The funny part is, on the way back I never saw the sign that said, "You are now leaving the town of Suffern." That is because I never left. I have been in suffering every day for the last 1,550 days. There is a fight inside of me that occurs every day between the part that just wants this ride to stop and the wrestler in me that is willing and able to take an unbelievable amount of physical and mental punishment for the ultimate reward of which the odds of achieving are so minuscule that sanity is no longer my friend. Luckily, the wrestler in me always wins. My friend Scott Green, the head wrestling coach at Wyoming Seminary, said, "That life is 90% reason, rationality, discipline, and organization. You need to live your life that way. That last 10% is a leap of faith, an emotional connection, an irrational belief. That last 10% makes no sense at all. But the truth is, nothing worth having and nothing worth accomplishing happens without that last part. You have to live in that world to do something great." I have been living exclusively in that world now for almost 5 years. I am trying with every piece of sinew in my soul to achieve something great. At times, it feels like I am. At other times, it feels like I am not. Most of the time, it just feels like Groundhog's Day, over and over again. I keep filling my mind with success stories, and I keep researching great people, trying to make sure that I have enough inspirational gas in my tank to make this whole trip. I keep pursuing my dream and dual goal to care for and cure Jess, and to live and love life. That is the reward of living in that 10%, the ability to keep plugging along as if great strides have been seen. That is my formula, to live in that 10%. It is the only formula that I know. So, each day I win another round of my inner fight, and I execute my formula of time, perseverance, and an unwavering faith and belief, while taking and absorbing all punishment in the process. As each new day starts, I feel like a whack-a-mole, sticking my head out of the hole time and time again, willing and able to take the shot in the head, with the hopes that one day I will stick my head out of the hole and I will no longer have to get a grief concussion. Until then, I will leap into that 10% of life with an emotional commitment and an irrational belief that something great is about to occur. But first, I must shake this nagging feeling that something is seriously wrong. Chapter 2. Bamboo, Time, and Belief. He who is impatient waits twice. Mark McGinnis. I am one of the most impatient people on this planet. I don't think that I have ever had anything that I put in the microwave that got fully cooked. I have always had to take it out of the microwave with at least 8 seconds left. I just can't wait. That is just me. The last 4.25 years of my daughter's recovery has been a learning experience for me, a lesson on patience, a lesson which I have come to master. I am now able to wait until there are 0 seconds left on the clock to take any of my meals out of the microwave. I have learned that every moment of every day, you decide who you are and what you believe in. I have learned that I am not able to speed up time by being impatient. I have learned that sometimes time just takes time. I have come to realize that Jess's recovery will not take days, weeks, or months, but rather, it is going to take years. I really want to open up the microwave at 8 seconds and speed up the process, but I know by doing so that may make her recovery take even longer. Whatever the length of time that Jess's recovery is going to take, I have realized that my patience is going to be a major factor in her success. Without it, success for Jess just will not be possible. So now, as much as it kills me, all of my meals come out of the microwave with 0 seconds on the clock. I have learned to look at Jess's recovery the way that a bamboo shoot grows. At first, in order for the bamboo shoot to grow, it must be put in a very fertile soil. Then, the bamboo shoot needs to have that soil pat down and cultivated. Water and sunshine then need to be provided to the bamboo shoot on a daily basis. After a year, there will be no signs of growth. After 4 years, there still will be no signs of any growth. At that time, doubt will start to set in. Logic will present an almost convincing plea that you might as well give up. You may even begin to believe that logic. That would be a mistake. During the first 5 years, while one is looking for the bamboo shoot to spring up through the soil, all of the bamboo shoot's growth happens invisibly, underground. During that time, invisible to the eye, the bamboo shoot is building a complex root system that will allow it to handle the massive growth that will soon occur. A bamboo shoot planter can never lose hope. In the 5th year, when the complex root system is strong enough, the bamboo shoot explodes out of the ground and grows over 100 feet tall, growing nearly 3 feet per day on some days. I look at Jess's recovery in the same light. My wife and I have planted a bamboo shoot. Betty Jane, myself, and Jess's siblings, Maverick, Travis, and Cassidy, have all provided a very fertile soil for Jess to grow in a loving home. Betty Jane and I provide the water and sunshine daily through proper care and nutrition. We are always researching and experimenting with new vitamins, minerals, fats, and oils that will aid in the healing process of Jess's brain. We have stayed the course. It has been 4¼ years. Jess's growth has been barely visible to the naked eye, but we keep our faith and believe that the growth is happening underneath in the vast array of Jess's brain's neurological connections. I believe that the intricate electrical connections in Jess's brain are regenerating themselves through the phenomenon of neurogenesis, and when these connections become strong enough, Jess's growth will become visible to all eyes. That's what I believe. And just like with the case of the bamboo shoot, after 4¼ years, logic would say otherwise. That is the beauty of living in the 10%. It is free of any and all logic. In the 10%, logic is replaced with unconditional love and irrational belief. The magic ingredients that make great things in life happen. A month ago, while I was talking to Jess, I told her that I wanted her to concentrate on lifting up her legs as she lay in her bed. Jess is non-mobile and non-verbal, so that was a tremendous request for me to ask from her. She had no immediate response. A few weeks went by. In the evening between 6 and 9 p.m. I work with Jess. It is my most patient time of the day. It is the time where I am able to talk with Jess without being pulled in all directions by life. It is our time. The other night, during this time, as I sat watching TV from across the room, I saw Jess raise her left leg in the air, real high. High enough to shock anyone who saw it, even me. She repeated the lift a few times, just for validation. Each time Jess's straight leg rose in the air, she held it for a brief few seconds, and then she released the hold and her leg came crashing down onto her bed. Thump. Up, hold, and thump again. Over and over again. A clear breakthrough. I never felt so redeemed. It has taken Jess 4¼ years, but Jess's bamboo shoot has finally started to crack the soil and spring out of the ground. Just a tremendous reimbursement of faith and belief restored itself in my inner being that night, for a few hours. My great feeling of faith and belief was soon replaced with that nagging feeling that something was seriously wrong. Soon, the nagging graduated to a knocking on my door of logic that I heard, but I didn't want to answer. Chapter 3. Double Confirmation. It is one's worst fear to have your gut feeling confirmed. My brother Ray and I are in the same profession of giving advice and guidance to people on how to invest their money. Some people understand the concept of buying low and selling high, while some people allow human nature to take over. And no matter what advice is given to them, they invariably do the opposite, and buy high and sell low. It is a very frustrating and almost impossible cycle to break. Many years back, my brother and I each had a client who was endlessly in this cycle. No matter how we pleaded with them, they were constantly doing the opposite of what they should have been doing. Ray and I would often talk to each other about our frustrations on dealing with each one of our clients. And then it dawned on Ray and me that each of our clients was a reverse indicator of what one should be doing in the market. When both of our clients wanted to buy, that was a sell signal. When both of our clients wanted to sell, that was a buying signal. We called it the Samacki-McMurphy double confirmation. Not their real names. Ray and I wished that we could have broken the cycle, and boy did we try. But when we realized that no matter what we said or did, that these two clients just didn't understand, or didn't have the personality to carry out the concept of buying low and selling high, we became order takers and not advisors to these clients. In those orders, we knew that there existed something very valuable, the ability to know when risk and danger was either coming or going. During the years, when one of us had one of our clients that wanted to take a particular action, we would wait for the other's client to call. As soon as we had double confirmation, the market would turn. It was infallible. It has been 3 weeks now, and this nagging feeling that has been following me like a shadow has caught up to me and has started knocking on my head, harder and louder. It is a knocking that is saying, "Hello, what don't you get? Something is wrong." Jess's lifting of her leg the other day was what my family has prayed for, hoped for, and anticipated for almost half of a decade now. And then, one day, the knocking just got tired of knocking with no answer, so it decided to break down the door. Almost immediately after Jess sprouted and showed signs of a major breakthrough, she fell subject to her 12th bout of pneumonia in the last 2 years. Jess's bamboo shoot broke soil, but quickly withdrew back into the ground, much like a turtle's head withdraws back into its shell when it knows that danger is looming. Now, all of Jess's energies and concentration are being used to fight off the infection in her lungs. Pneumonia wipes Jess out. It really wipes her out. Having gone through this with Jess many times, I know the cycle. Betty Jane and I can pinpoint the exact day that it starts. In the early stages, Jess will have extended sleep patterns, bloodshot eyes, a cough, and a blank facial expression with no feeling visible in her eyes. It takes 3 days for us to confirm what we already know. It takes another 3 days to get an appointment with the doctor, followed by 5 days on an antibiotic, and then another 5 days of recovery. All in all, every bout Jess has with pneumonia cycles out in about 16 days or so. Betty Jane and I handle Jess's bouts with pneumonia like we would handle a cold for ourselves. It has become that common in our lives. Except that with each bout, it becomes progressively more dangerous. We are currently in the part of the cycle where Jess should be responding to the antibiotics. She is not. By now, Jess's blank stare should have been replaced with signs of life in her face. It has not. By now, Jess's bloodshot eyes should have been replaced with vibrancy. They have not. Instead, both Betty Jane and I notice that Jess has sprinkler eyes, where her eyeballs start out looking to the right-hand corner of her eye and would slowly drift to the left-hand corner of her eye socket. As soon as they reach the left-hand corner, they would jet back to the right-hand corner, just like a sprinkler does when it waters a lawn. That is not good, I say to Betty Jane as I notice Jess's sprinkler eyes in action. Betty Jane says to me, "I have had this nagging feeling for some time now that something is seriously wrong." There it is. The John and Betty Jane double confirmation. Danger is looming. Our lives are about to turn. Again. Chapter 4. Red Lights and Yellow Lines. Ships that pass in the night and speak each other in passing, only a signal shown, and a distant voice in the darkness. So on the ocean of life we pass and speak one another, only a look and a voice, then darkness again, and a silence. Henry Wadsworth Longfellow. November 30th, 2013. I am on my way to Riverhead. It is the Saturday after Black Friday. The roads are stuffed with holiday shoppers. Traffic is at a standstill. I am flying by in the back of an ambulance going 80 miles an hour, undeterred, in a self-made HOV lane. I have never desired to be sitting in traffic more before in my life. After the double confirmation, I realized that my nagging feeling needed to be researched further. So I am. I am currently looking out the ambulance rear window taking Jess to the hospital. What looks like 3 thick strips of medical tape form an asterisk on the window and clouds my view. An asterisk with a serpent around the pole? Who makes that their motto? My mind asks itself as trees fly by at warp speed. My body in the ambulance is physically being pushed forward. My mind is emotionally digressing backwards. How did I not act on my feeling earlier? I know that this is not going to be good. I just have this feeling. What is wrong with me? I knew it. Why didn't I do anything? On and on and on. Up ahead, flashing red lights, on the other side of the yellow line, approach us heading in the opposite direction. The red lights are from a fire engine. The fire engine is not rushing off to put out a fire, but rather it is on its way to ignite a flame into everyone it comes into contact with. The fire engine's lights are flashing to commemorate the start of the holiday season. Firemen are hanging off of the fire engine, playing Santa, waving and spreading joy. On my side of the yellow line, the ambulance that I am traveling in is using its red lights to part traffic so Jess can get to the emergency room quicker. The fire engine finally passes our ambulance. A crisscross between the best and worst of life. Keep moving forward, I remind myself. Somehow, I just can't shake this feeling that my life is about to be sacked harder than a Lawrence Taylor blindside tackle. I brace myself like a quarterback, ready to take a hit. Chapter 5. The Most Dangerous Day of Your Life. Everything will be okay in the end. If it is not okay, it is not the end. John Lennon. Having lived life for more than 40+ years, there are a few things that, when I hear them said, ring hollowly in my ears. When I hear someone say, "Trust me," I usually don't. When I hear someone say, "It's going to be okay," even though I know that their intention may be good, I understand that it's probably not going to be okay, at least for a while. I have also learned that when an ER doctor says, "All the tests came back fine, you are fine, you can go home now," don't. For that is the most dangerous day of your life. Jess's white blood cell count is within range, her CT scan is normal, and all the other tests are fine. She just has a urinary tract infection, I was told after waiting a few hours at the hospital. Here is a prescription for an antibiotic. It will clear up her UTI by the end of the week, the doctor says to me, as he is simultaneously walking and writing on his prescription pad. "Doctor, are you sure? There has to be something more. This was serious enough for us to bring Jess to the ER. There has to be something that you are missing. Are there any more tests that can be done?" "We did them all. Everything is fine." What about Jess's severe sweats, her blank stare, her bloodshot eyes? They could all be from the UTI. Could be? I cynically ask. "Doctor, I just have this nagging feeling that there is something that we are missing. Go home. Everything is okay." December 1st, 2013. The next morning when I woke up, I remember asking Betty Jane, "Why does it look like Jess was in a boxing match?" Jess's eyes are black and blue and are swollen shut. She is drenched in sweat. It is as if someone poured water on her last night. There has to be something that they are missing. A few minutes later I hear, "John, help me, help me." Something is wrong. My wife never calls me by my first name, only out of desperation. "John, help me, Jess is throwing up." Betty Jane's use of my first name startles me. I immediately know that there is danger. My radar on the use of my first name is dead on. Jess has thrown up many times before, but never like this time. I look over to Jess from where I am standing in the kitchen. I see Betty Jane holding Jess's head up as brown blood is flying out of Jess's mouth with such volume and ferocity that it makes my knees go weak. Normally, when Jess would throw up, I would go into beast mode. I would run and get towels and a shuck to cover Jess, and I would help Betty Jane keep Jess's head up so she wouldn't aspirate. But this time I just don't move. I can't move. I am frozen. A minute goes by and I am still motionless. A blood volcano is still erupting from Jess's body and I remain frozen. I silently say to myself, I can't do this anymore. I'm done. I just can't do this. Again. Chapter 6. The Rematch. The price of anything is the amount of life you exchange for it. Henry David Thoreau. There is a scene at the end of Rocky where Apollo Creed and Rocky are in the middle of the ring after their match, waiting for the official scoring of their just completed brawl. They are both beat up and battered. Through the bruises on their faces, it is obvious that both fighters gave their all to win the fight. Both have paid a heavy toll. A few seconds before the final decision is announced, Apollo Creed turns to Rocky and says, "You're not getting a rematch." And Rocky quickly replies back, "I don't want one." I now know that there is something seriously wrong. My nagging feeling has transformed into reality. I immediately know that my family is facing another extended hospital stay. I don't want one. I dread it. I really, really dread it. I know who my opponent is, and I fear him, for I know the punishment that he inflicted on my family and me last time. The first time I faced a long hospital stay with Jessica, a little over 4 years ago, I refused to factor in what the cost would be. The cost didn't matter to me. I would have paid any price. And I did. I am not talking the cost in dollars, because I really don't care about money. I am talking the physical and emotional cost that my family and I paid for the stay. As Betty Jane and I settled back at home after Jess came back from Helen Hayes Brain Rehabilitation Center in January of 2010, the toll that 5-month stay had on our family became more and more apparent as the days went by. "Did you know that I didn't see you or Mom together for over 5 months?" Travis would say to me one day as we sat and talked about everything. "It felt like you and Mom were going through a divorce," he added. The ironic part, Travis, was that we were trying to accomplish the exact opposite of a divorce. We were trying to keep our family together no matter what. I tried to adjust his thinking. "I know, but it didn't feel like that." "Do you know that you didn't even look over my homework the whole school year?" Cassidy chimed in. "Maverick helped me with my homework every night." Maverick, the one who never even did his own homework. "I miss Terry and Grandpa," Cassidy released. "Do you realize that we haven't slept in the same room in over 4 years?" Betty Jane added on another occasion. "This time, I know the price that my family would pay for an extended hospital stay and the potential damages that it would cause up front. And that is what makes it so much harder. I know how every one of my family members was affected last time. How each person's life changed. I do not want a rematch. I dread a rematch. It may be time to take my own advice." Chapter 7. Here are my shoes. It is about being relentless in the pursuit of your goal and resilient in the face of adversity. Nick Saban. Beating an opponent that you know is better than you is a great feeling, one that catapults your confidence into the stratosphere. It is a key ingredient for future success. I can remember the exact moment when Maverick first beat an opponent that he felt was better than him. It was on July 1st, 2010, during a summer camp match at Hofstra University. That is when I first knew that Maverick would become a state champion. On February 22nd, 2012, Maverick turned my feeling into reality. In between, it almost didn't happen. There were times that Maverick wanted to quit, and rightfully so. Times where he felt that he gave a 100% effort for a 0% return. that his relentless, consistent pursuit of greatness was going all for naught. I knew the feeling well. In his sophomore year, just after beating the opponent that was better than him, Maverick set a goal to become a high school All-American. He set out to become one of the top 8 wrestlers at his weight in the country. A very formidable goal, especially for a wrestler who probably considered himself to be a better baseball player than wrestler at that point in his life. Together, Maverick and I put a plan together, along with the action that he needed to take in order to turn that goal into a reality. The plan included for him to always be in training, to travel to different states to attend quality tournaments, to become a student of the sport by watching videos, to prioritize wrestling above all else, and to become fully consumed by his goal. He did just that. He did it to near perfection. He did it for a full year. 365 full days of unadulterated hard work. And in the hours that he wasn't working, he was resting so that he could work harder the next day. A maximum effort. Anything less would have been foolish. Maverick even gave up playing baseball so he would have more time to concentrate on becoming a better wrestler. That decision was a very difficult and painful sacrifice to make in the eyes of his mother, but a completely necessary sacrifice to make in his own eyes. Second after second, minute after minute, hour after hour, day after day, week after week, month after month, season after season, Maverick focused and worked toward achieving his lofty goal. A full year went by. It was finally early spring, NHSCA Sophomore Nationals tournament time. In order to become a high school All-American, with over 100 wrestlers in his weight class, Maverick would need to win 5 consecutive matches. Win 5 consecutive matches in the toughest tournament in the country for a high school sophomore, and he would reach his goal. The weight class was filled with landmines of state place winners, state champions, and multiple-time state champions. We knew that every match would be a battle. In the NHSCA Sophomore National Tournament, Maverick would have the best tournament of his life. He would wind up beating 4 state place winners and champions, with one opponent being a multiple-time state champion. Notice that I said 4 and not 5. That is because Maverick would come up short in his 5th match, the match that would determine his All-American status. He would come up short by 1 point. 1 point. He was crushed. I remember that after the match he ran off by himself to privately absorb the loss of the match and the loss of his goal that he had worked so hard to achieve. After a few minutes, I went searching for him, to console him, to tell him that I was proud of him. After searching in all of the obvious places, I found Maverick in a back alleyway of the Virginia Coliseum, near the outside docking section, on the floor, in a corner, crawled up in a fetal position. It broke my heart to see him so crushed. I didn't have the heart to even speak to him. There was nothing that I could say that would make him hurt less. To set such a lofty goal, to work at your maximum capacity to obtain that goal for more than a year, and to come so close to accomplishing that goal is always more than just a gut check for most competitors. It is usually a breaking point. I believe that everything happens for a reason. I believe that in that loss, there was something that Maverick needed to learn for a bigger future goal that the universe would one day reveal to him. Something that he was unaware of on this day. On this day, he just hurt. He hurt badly. Eventually, Maverick got out of the fetal position, sat up, and started to untie his wrestling shoes. After a few very frustrating pulls and tugs, he had both wrestling shoes off of his feet. Maverick then meticulously tied the laces of both shoes together, got up and attempted to hand his shoes to me. Every wrestler who has ever competed in this sport knows the significance of this gesture. Translation for those who haven't wrestled, it means, I'm done. That was my last competition. It's just not worth it anymore. Standing about 2 feet from me, Maverick had his arms outstretched holding his pair of wrestling shoes. He expected me to take them from him. I did not. I told him that I was more proud of him than disappointed. It is not what he wanted to hear. He dropped the shoes at my feet. I said to him, "You did everything right for a full year. You made tremendous strides as a wrestler and as a person. You beat 4 multiple state place winners or champions in the hardest wrestling tournament in the country, and you came within 1 point of accomplishing your goal. You can't stop now. You are right there." He muttered, "I'm done." I said, "You need to do it again." "I don't want to do it again. I'm done," he vehemently stated. I never said that this was going to be easy. I said it was going to be worth it. "Why do you think some wrestlers All-American and some don't? What is the difference between the two?" I asked him. He just shot back at me a vicious blank stare, with a quivering lip. "The difference is the wrestlers that All-American figure it out. They find a way." When it means that much to you, that you want to figure it out, to find a way, pick your shoes back up and let's do it again, I said to him, and I walked away. Just before I got to the area of the hallway that I needed to make a right-hand turn to be out of his view, I glanced over my shoulder. I saw Maverick bending over, picking up his shoes. He was ready to do it again. To become a high school All-American in his junior year was the new goal that Maverick set for himself. To his credit, Maverick worked harder than he did the previous year to achieve that goal. Again. For a full year, Maverick put his head down. He was focused, determined, and did everything right. Again. When the tournament approached, Maverick felt that he was ready to accomplish his elusive goal of becoming a high school All-American. Again. The NHSCA Junior National Tournament runs over 48 hours on 24 mats in Virginia Beach in the early spring. Maverick was the first match of the tournament on Mat 1. 6 minutes into the start of the tournament, before any other matches had started wrestling, and even before the national anthem had been sung, Maverick's goal was shattered. Again. He drew the 3-time national champion, random draw, in his first match, and did not win, a close 4-2 decision. A moral victory for most wrestlers, but not for a wrestler pursuing greatness. For those rare wrestlers who strive to be great, they take no solace in moral victories or in losing close matches. They see things in black and white, not in shades. Black was losing, even by 2 points, to a 3-time national champ. White was winning. There is no gray. That time, I gave Maverick a much bigger head start before I went looking for him. When I found him, he cut me off before I could even say anything. "Don't even say anything. I'm done. This time I'm really done." Disregarding the risk that my message would be stale and fall on deaf ears, I said to Maverick, "You need to do it again." When you decide to do whatever it takes, for as long as it takes, sometime during your seemingly infinite journey, the weather vane will just change direction, and the new winds of positive change will blow at your back instead of into your face, and suddenly things will just get easier. When that day happens, you will know that it will be just a matter of time before you achieve your goal. To become a high school All-American and a New York State champion became Maverick's goal for his senior year. He embraced that goal. Again. To his credit, he worked even harder during the summer and fall going into his senior year than he had ever worked before. Again. There was no wasting time. He worked with a tremendous sense of urgency, as I am sure that he heard his high school clock ticking in the back of his head. Hard work wins. In the fall of his senior year, Maverick became a high school All-American by placing 8th at the Super 32 tournament in North Carolina, one of the best preseason high school tournaments in the country. In the winter of his senior year, Maverick won a New York State Wrestling Championship at 126 pounds and had a magical high school season. In the spring of his senior year, Maverick became a 2-time All-American as he placed 4th at Flow Nationals. After his last match at Flow Nationals, I remember Maverick taking off his shoes. Patiently, this time. Every knot was undone with ease and diligence. I remember him standing up, walking over to me and looking me right in the eye, and handing me his shoes. Again. And I remember gladly accepting them from him, knowing that this time they were handed to me with a totally different meaning. It is hard to take your own advice. As much as I dread it, I know that I need to. It is time to do it again. Be the first one back to the circle, I remind myself. Chapter 8. Over time or overtime. When you feel that you cannot go on any further, remember why you started in the first place and how far that you have come. Betty Jane and I are standing outside of Jess's ER room at Stony Brook University Hospital, awaiting her diagnosis. We are both emotionally battered, as bad as Rocky was, awaiting his decision against Apollo Creed. Betty Jane turns to me and says, "We are right back where we started from. We have come so far, for so long, for so little." That is not true, I say, and I ask her a question. Do you believe that Jessie feels our love? I do, she calmly says. Then we have accomplished a great deal, I add. Mr. and Mrs. Passaro, can I talk with you for a second? The ER doctor calls us back inside. You went to the ER last week and they sent you home? He asks, knowingly walking a very fine line. Yes, reluctantly, we both had a feeling that they were missing something, but yes. Did they go over Jess's CT scan with you? He inquisitively asks, while putting his thumb under his chin and leaning on it hard, while curling the rest of his fingers tightly. They said they did all the tests and everything was fine, and they sent us home. Unfolding his fingers and taking his hand away from his face, he says, Jess has severe hydrocephalus, which is a buildup of water on her brain. Are you sure that they looked at her CT scan? He bewilderingly asks, again placing his thumb back under his chin. Yes, they said that they did, Betty Jane added. What made you come back in? He inquires through his tightly wrapped fingers. Jess started to throw up blood, I said. You are very lucky that she did, he went on to say. That was a pure coincidence. Has Jess had any nosebleeds recently? He asked. Come to think of it, the other night when I was cleaning out her nose, I noticed a twinge of blood. I didn't think too much of it, I added. Jess had a nosebleed that dripped into her stomach, and when she woke and vomited, she threw the blood up. The good news is that she is not bleeding inside. Without that nosebleed, you may have lost her. Jess is scheduled for surgery in the morning. You are going to be here for a while. The sounds of the words, for a while, echo in my ears. Again. There is a brief moment after a wrestling match ends in a tie that each wrestler has to decide whether he is going to gather himself and go into overtime and fight some more, or not. Will he be the first one back into the circle, ready to go on and fight to win, or will he allow the fact that he worked so hard, for so long, for so little, get to him? Is it overtime for him? Will he drag himself reluctantly back to the circle and allow his opponent to beat him? Overtime or overtime? When you are faced with the moment to quit or to go on, you must always choose to go on. You either compete or you quit. It is just that simple. There are no alibis. Win or take it on the chin. JohnA, be the first one back to the circle. I immediately regroup myself and take action to prepare for overtime. I run back to the circle of life. Okay, you stay with Jess, get her checked in, and let's get on our schedule. You take the days and I will take the nights, I said in a robotic mode to Betty Jane, who is also making the necessary mental adjustments to prepare for what is ahead of us. I will get the 30-day pass for the parking garage on the way out. Chapter 9. Rooftop on a hospital parking lot. I don't know what they are called, the spaces between seconds, but I think of you always in those intervals. Salvador Plasencia, The People of Paper. Experience has taught Betty Jane and me to separate, to be on opposite shifts, for each of us to put in half to make a whole. Even though we never want to leave Jess's side, we both know at some time, in order to make this work, we both have to. It is my turn to leave. The walk out to the parking lot is torture. My heart aches, literally aches. I have this overwhelming need to still be there with Betty Jane and Jess. I know that by the time that I come back here tomorrow, Jess will have already had an operation to release the pressure that has built up on her brain. I really don't want to leave, but I know that I have to. Betty Jane and I have to be on separate schedules in order to make this work. I get into my truck, which is on the top floor of the hospital parking lot. I have been on a roof of a hospital parking lot too many times, so I understand what is about to happen. I pause, as this is the hardest part. It is the part where I have to allow the outside world to emotionally suck me from Betty Jane and Jess and throw me back into the real world. As I sit in the truck, I look up at the humongous hospital. I zone in on where I imagine Betty Jane and Jess would be, and I send them a laser look of love. I want to let them know that even though I am not with them physically, that I will always be with them emotionally. After a few seconds, I turn the key to the ignition. I allow the transformation to begin. I go kicking and fighting. I don't want to get sucked away, but I allow myself to. The rooftop force transforms me from a caregiver, doctor, and nurse to a dad of 4, a provider, a patriarch, and a friend. By the time that my truck pulls into my driveway at home, the transformation is complete. The transformation is draining. It saps me of every ounce of energy that I possess. My first thought is that I need to refuel. Chapter 10. You can get the last takedown for your team. Survival sounds like the most pathetic goal, but it isn't. Krista 3-foot. My refueling process always begins with me researching great people. It is an amazing time that we live in. With a few keystrokes, I have access to all the motivation and inspiration in the world. So I turn on my computer and I type the words Tom Ryan into my Google search box. Up comes a video that Flow Wrestling made called The Most Dominant Wrestler, featuring Tom Ryan, the head wrestling coach of Ohio State University. Immediately, I know that it is the exact prescription for my mood. At one point in the video, Tom talks about a wrestler's ability to keep fighting, even in obvious defeat. You are not always going to win. We all know that a crowd will stand up if you fight your heart out. If you are losing by 8 and you somehow, some way, score the last takedown so you lose by 6 and you save your team a point, I've seen it. I would expect that wrestler to fight that way if his wife were sick and needed help. I would expect him to fight that way if something happened to his child. I would expect him to fight that way in every situation in his life. Those are the lessons that you have to take away from the sport. That I am on planet Earth, and it may not be pretty, but nothing is going to stop me from fighting. After watching Tom Ryan's video, I immediately say to myself, I can get the last takedown. I can keep fighting. Just improve your position, I hear in my head. I can do that. I can survive. For my team, my family. Surviving is a most powerful force. As I struggle to survive this adversity, I know that I am shaping my spirit and reinforcing my will to live, to love. With struggle, life has a renewed vigor. A sense of amazement is returned. Belief, confidence, and enthusiasm are reignited. I remember reading somewhere that said, "You only survive when you love something more than you hate the pain." And I do. And that isn't pathetic. I am on planet Earth, and it may not be pretty, but nothing is going to stop me from fighting. Chapter 11. Snow Globe. When something much bigger than you shakes your world, become still for a second and admire the beauty of life. December 2nd, 2013. Betty Jane and I immediately get on schedule. She stayed with Jess all of the first day, and I replaced her around 8 p.m. of the first night. Jess's first operation was successful. Jess will need a second operation to repair the shunt, the draining system that was implanted into her head when this originally happened. The doctors will not be able to proceed with the second operation until Jess's body gets rid of a major infection that is attacking the meninges of her brain. Jess has a rematch with meningitis, the second time in less than 5 years. It is midnight of my first night back, and I am trying so desperately not to be affected by the noises of the night in the hospital. The beeps and buzzers and alarms, which mostly all go ignored. The groans and moans and loneliness, which all go deep into your subconscious. Jessica is sedated and is recovering from her surgery. I immediately make a pledge to myself that I am going to use this time to be still. Of course, I am going to be here for whatever Jess needs, but my life was just shaken like a snow globe, and I am going to be still, to just let everything settle, to take in the beauty and to capture the essence of life. Just like when you look into a shaken snow globe and absolutely admire the beauty of the winter scene, I am going to take this still time to look into my shaken life and admire the beauty and the scene. There's not many times in your life that you can become completely still. I've been blessed with a still moment in my life, and I am going to make it do wonders for me. The benefit of being on a long hospital stay is that my thoughts are crystallized, and everything that is important to me rises up to my consciousness and comes into focus. It is during these times that I get it. Life becomes simple, even though it is very complicated. Adversity has a way of removing the nonsense, to leave only the good sense. As much as I get tired of battling adversity, I am grateful for it, as each adversity that I battle reveals to me what I truly value. You see, adversity brings into focus all the things that are important in my life. I believe that everything in life happens for a reason. I believe that one of the reasons that this is happening is so that I can become the man I was meant to be. To have the ability to become still, to let everything that is important to me just float around and land in the right places, is a gift, one that I would never have anywhere other than right here, in the ICU at midnight. As everything that matters most to me is so vivid in my mind, I write. I write to capture the feelings, to blazon words on a page to remember forever, to never forget, to figure things out, to understand. Just like with a dream, if I don't write down my feelings right after I wake up, they become lost forever. So I will take the time each day to write what I now understand from the shake of my life's snow globe. I sit still in the ICU at Stony Brook at midnight. Stony Brook University Hospital sits atop the highest elevation on Long Island. Jess's ICU room is fortunate enough to have the greatest view from that peak. I look out through Jess's window as she sleeps and recovers. It starts to snow. Chapter 12. The sun is always there. A day without sunshine is like, night. Steve Martin. December 3rd, 2013. I continued to look out of Jess's window for the better part of the night. The sun is starting to beam its magnificent brightness over the trees on the eastern horizon. If I were not in this room, I would never have seen this spectacular event. A daily event that gets so taken for granted. An event that usually only gets noticed by people in extreme emotions, either in love or in worry. There is a sunrise and a sunset every day. The sad part is that I can only remember seeing a few in my lifetime. How sad to miss all of that beauty that is there every day. It is so easy to see past or through the greatness that is so obvious to us daily. Every day, one should see either the sunrise or the sunset. If you miss both for more than a few days, you need to readjust yourself. Life's beauty is just too amazing to miss. So don't. The trick is to go to bed with a dream and to wake up with a purpose, and when you do, life's beauty will be shining in your eyes. A dear friend of mine recently asked me, "How did you find happiness with all that you have been through?" After thinking about it for a while, I realized that I didn't find happiness. It was not hidden. It was always there. Happiness is a decision, not something that is lost. You just have to recognize all that is there to be happy about and just decide to be happy. It is that simple. In Paradise Lost, John Milton writes, "The mind is its own place, and in itself can make a heaven of hell, and a hell of heaven." I have decided that I would rather live in heaven. Albert Einstein once said, "There are two ways to live your life. One is as though nothing is a miracle. The other is as though everything is a miracle." I prefer to live as though everything in life is a miracle. Happiness, like the sun, is always there. Sometimes we just need to be still to feel it. Chapter 13. Flying in a Fog. When a pilot cannot see the horizon because of low visibility, he doesn't assume that the horizon has disappeared. He flies on instruments that can gauge the situation more clearly than he can. Marianne Williamson. There was a time in my life when I knew what time that it was at any given moment. Anyone, at any time, could ask me the time of day, and I would be able to tell them the exact time, give or take 2 minutes, without looking at a clock. I never had a need for a watch or an alarm clock because I was just so tuned in to my internal clock. As my life progressed, the people in my life started to pick up on this weird characteristic of mine. At first, they didn't believe it, so they set out to test me. They would wake me up in the middle of the night from a deep sleep, and after wiping the sleep from my eyes, I would say, 3:18 a.m., and I would go back to sleep. I would be correct within 2 minutes. At the dinner table, they would ask, 6:12 p.m., I would answer. Driving in the car, 2:22 p.m. Late at night, 11:48 p.m. I was infallible. I don't ever remember not being within 2 minutes of the exact time, ever. At first, people thought that I had some sort of trick. I didn't. I was just that tuned in. My secret was having a reference point. I would remember back to the last time that I knew the exact time, and I would calibrate from there. This idiosyncrasy of mine really meant something to me. This idiosyncrasy of mine no longer exists. Grief has taken this gift away from me. Now, there are times that I feel lucky to know what season or what year it is. I'm being serious. I have often had to look outside to check the weather for a clue. I have often sat in front of my computer not being able to log on because I just couldn't remember my password. It is scary. Grief is like flying in the fog. There are times that I could be flying along and out of nowhere the fog appears. During those times I can't see backward or forward or around me. I have no reference point. There are times that I walk around in this fog, hiding it from the world. Very conscious of not giving off clues that at times I can't see past my own outstretched hand. I have no control as to when the fog appears. Betty Jane has just arrived at the hospital to switch with me. Before I head home, I stop downstairs in the best hospital cafeteria that I have ever been in. Stony Brook University's cafeteria is amazing. I order a spinach, mushroom, and turkey omelet, a cup of coffee, and I check out at the cashier. I hand the cashier a $10 bill, from which I get no change, and I ask her to point me in the direction of the utensils. The cashier points to a countertop a few feet away, which has a separate dispenser for forks, knives, and spoons. I get to the countertop and I stop in front of the spoon dispenser. The fog appears. I stand there, and I go blank. I literally can't figure out how to get a spoon out of the dispenser. My mind is not working. I am getting increasingly frustrated as the seconds go by. After a few minutes, I am boiling inside, ready to burst. As I am standing in front of the spoon dispenser, my only thought is that I want to destroy this machine, but instead, I try to fight through the fog and look around for a reference point. A lady, who's been watching me from across the cafeteria, approaches me. She hits a handle that says, "Push down for a spoon," and a spoon magically appears. So does a caring smile from her. She says to me, "This too shall pass," which is a secret code that she is a club member and understands. I smile and say thank you, and I walk to a table to eat my breakfast. And just like that, the fog clears. Chapter 14. Sweat. Sweat is a sign of hard work and dedication. Lauren Kent. If you look up the definition of the word sweat, you will find that it means moisture exuded through the pores of the skin, typically in profuse quantities as a reaction to heat, physical exertion, fever, infection, or fear. I have them all covered. I have 2 sons exuding profuse quantities of sweat through physical exertion during wrestling practice, preparing themselves for their school wrestling seasons that have recently just begun. And I have a daughter sweating out an infection so deep that for the last 8 days she has been getting a high-level antibiotic directly injected into her brain. As far as the fear part, I have that part covered myself. There is not one word that describes my life better right now than the word sweat. Hard work, dedication, sickness, and fear. Chapter 15. My fear. Fear does not work as long as there is hope. Catching Fire. December 9th, 2013. For 8 days now, Jess has received a very high dosage of the antibiotic vancomycin, better known as the antibiotic of last resort. She has not responded. She is at the worst point that she has ever been throughout this 4+ year crisis. The stark possibility of losing her has started to seep into my thoughts. I have never allowed it to enter before, as I have always stood guard over what I allowed to enter my mind. The thought of losing Jess has sneakily entered through a back door and has silently crept into the forefront of my mind. That is what happens when you have too many fights happening at the same time. The fever, the cold sweats, the circular contraction of Jess's arms are all reminders to me that we are in the ICU. Jess's severe shallow breathing and her 170 BPM heart rate increase my fear that we may not be here for long, that the fight may be nearing an end. I sit here day after day waiting for a positive response from Jess's body, but as each day passes, the opposite signs are all too glaring not to notice. I am so desperately trying to stay strong, so desperately trying to keep fighting. I feel like I am fighting an impossible fight, chasing an impossible dream. The impossible dream. The song starts playing in my head. To dream the impossible dream. To fight the unbeatable foe. To bear with unbearable sorrow. To run where the brave dare not go. To right the unrightable wrong. To love, pure and chaste from afar. To try when your arms are too weary. To reach the unreachable star. This is my quest, to follow that star, no matter how hopeless, no matter how far. To fight for the right, without question or pause. To be willing to march into hell for a heavenly cause. And I know if I'll only be true to this glorious quest, that my heart will lie peaceful and calm when I'm laid to my rest. And the world will be better for this, that one man, scorned and covered with scars, still strove, with his last ounce of courage, to reach the unreachable star. I remember playing this record over and over as a young wrestler. A young wrestler who so badly wanted to win a state championship, but didn't. A young wrestler who came up significantly short of his goal. A young wrestler who was so bitter because of it. A young wrestler who felt that he got 0 out of the sport. As I am sitting here so near my breaking point, it dawns on me that the sport of wrestling has rewarded me with a bigger prize than standing on the podium for a few seconds. that the reward that I sought, a state championship, was not the reward that I received. I received something much greater. Wrestling rewarded me with a way to live life, a belief system, to always believe, to never give up, that hard work wins. It has taught me that the definition of never is not ever, under any circumstances. Wrestling has instilled in me an inner belief that there is something inside of me that is greater than any obstacle. It has taught me how to be able to keep fighting when I am physically and mentally exhausted. And I am. It has taught me to keep fighting, no matter what the score is, or how much time is left on the clock. To always have hope. So I do. I reach down, and I fight some more. That one man, scorned and covered with scars, still strove with his last ounce of courage. That's a wrestler. Chapter 16. The greatest asset in my life. Once you've wrestled, everything else in life is easy. Dan Gable. I can remember the exact day that I considered myself a wrestler. It happened at a baseball field during my brother Joe's high school game. I was 13 years old, and I was struggling with the transition of going from the small fields to the big fields. No matter how much I tried, my 100-pound body just couldn't hit a ball out of the infield, especially on a day that the wind was blowing in, which, unfortunately, at William Floyd High School, was every day. "Hey, Passaro, come here for a second," said Ray Flores, a high school wrestler. I had heard that Ray was one of the top wrestlers in Suffolk County that year. I was in awe. Is he actually calling for me? "Let me see your glove for a second," he commanded as I walked over to him. My glove, I thought to myself. I prided myself on being a great defensive ball player, so asking to see my glove was as close to crossing the line as it came. I reluctantly handed it over to Flores. He took my glove from me and simultaneously reached into his pocket and pulled out a pen. What is he doing? Is he crazy? I remember thinking to myself in a sudden fury. I tried to grab my glove back from him before he sacrilegiously defaced my identity, but he shielded me with his 160-pound mainframe. My heart sank. It was a Rawlings. You see, I oiled my glove once a week. I baked it in the oven with a baseball in the palm, held tightly in just the perfect shape with rubber bands. It took me a year to get it to be a perfect glove. How could he take it upon himself and just scribble on it like that? "Here you go, Passaro," he said as he turned back around and handed the glove back to me. And there, scratched in the oil-bound leather of the left forefinger of my most prized possession, was the advice that changed my life. "Hey, Passaro, throw the glove away, get a headgear, and wrestle." I slept with that glove that night, as I did every night. But the next morning when I woke up, I was a wrestler instead of a ball player. 36 years later, I know that one of the greatest assets that I have in my life, besides my family and friends, is the sport of wrestling. We spend 8 hours a day, for 10 months a year, for nearly 17 years, sending our kids to school to help prepare them for life. In all of that time, there is never a course in overcoming adversity, goal setting, sacrifice, perseverance, being a great teammate or family. I guess that is what the sport of wrestling is for. Chapter 17. John A. Hear the voice that comes from your corner. The reason I have elected to write my name as JohnA Passaro is because of the feeling that I get when I hear it said. When I wrestled in high school, during my matches there could be 1,000 people screaming at the top of their lungs, but there were always two voices that I heard, no matter what the situation was. One voice was from my brother Joe, and the other voice was from my coach, Dan Nolan. Whenever the time got tough in the match and I needed to draw upon something for a boost, I would hear, "John A. John A." Most everyone else called me Johnny. They called me John A, with an emphasis on the A. During any of my matches that I could recall, the two people that I would run through a brick wall for, my brother Joe and my coach Dan Nolan's voices came through crystal clear like Billy Chappell when he cleared the mechanism. All screams went to mute, and then I would hear a crystal clear, "John A. John A." They say that you like someone because of the way that they make you feel. I believe that. Hearing John A. in Coach Nolan's or my brother Joe's voice immediately made me feel confident, believed in. Like the outcome had already been predetermined and they knew that I won. It was just a formality that I had to finish the match, that my hand would be raised. John A. So I have added the A to my first name as a silent reminder and tribute to the two great coaches I had in high school that gave me an inner confidence in myself. To this day, I love the way hearing John A. makes me feel. John A. I say over and over in my head, trying to mimic the exact dialect of my brother Joe and Coach Nolan. It is 16 days into Jess's stay, and she hasn't opened her eyes as of yet. John A., I say to myself, looking for that spark. I am drawing on every source possible to believe. Chapter 18. Life Transformed. It was an accident that intertwined our fates. Optimus Prime, Transformers. "Betty Jane, hey, Betty Jane!" I yell out from my chair in Jess's room, attempting to get Betty Jane to come back into the room for a second, as she just headed out the doorway, leaving, not on the best of terms with me. Something is telling me to not let her go home mad at me. Her head reluctantly appears back near the right doorframe. "I just want to let you know that you are a special person, I love you, and let's not fight over something so stupid." The exchange takes just a few seconds. She smiles, and she now leaves on good terms with me. 15 minutes later, my phone rings. It is Betty Jane. She is visibly upset. "John, I'm okay." Not a good way to start a conversation, I think to myself. Hearing Betty Jane say my first name has immediately put me on edge. "Betty Jane, what happened?" "John." There it is again. I was driving down Nichols Road. I swear I wasn't on my phone. I'm waiting for the next sentence with bated breath. And out of nowhere, going in the opposite direction, on the other side of the highway, this truck goes out of control and jumps the meridian and is flying through the air, coming right at me. It was like a Transformer movie. I didn't have any time to do anything. "Are you okay?" I begged to know. "I'm fine. The truck landed in the middle of the road right in front of me. I stopped inches from it. Another few seconds and I would have been dead." "How about the driver of the other car? Is she okay?" "Yes, there was another nurse coming home from Stony Brook also. She is with her." How do I measure the loss that was just averted? How does one measure the destruction averted to a life from a bomb that doesn't go off? How do I add up the value to my life from Long Island brush fires that stopped 1 block from my home a few years ago, or the fact that my neighborhood did not get rained on during Superstorm Sandy, or that my children have made it home safely from school every day? I can't. It is very hard to add up the value of events that don't happen. But do not mistake their value. That's the problem with near misses. One doesn't know how to gauge their impact on one's life. Don't make the mistake in thinking that they have no value. They do. Their value is infinitely unknown. There was a time in my life when I saw a family going through a tragedy that I would feel for them for a few minutes, and then I would go on with my life. Now, I literally ache with them, and I think about them, and I wonder how I could help them. Not for a few minutes, but for a real long time. I don't have answers to why terrible things happen in life. All I know is that a few seconds of love transformed my life. Chapter 19. Turn your wall into a raft. We build too many walls and not enough bridges. Sir Isaac Newton. There is always one question that, when it is asked of me, immediately brings tears to my eyes. And that is, how is Betty Jane doing? I always answer it by saying, she is a special person. But on the inside, I am dying when the words leave my mouth. I know what she has given up. I see it every day. I see the intense passion that she has to take care of Jess, the pleading that she does with the universe for Jess to improve, and her total dedication to make sure Jess feels our love. She is a special person. What else can I say about a person who has given up her whole life to see that her daughter has the slimmest possibility to regain her life back? She has made the ultimate sacrifice. A person cannot do more for someone than Betty Jane has done for Jess. For Betty Jane to literally give up her life for the possibility and not the guarantee that her child improves enough to live life again is simply an amazing act of unconditional love. There is nothing on this earth that I have seen with my own eyes that I admire more. Once in a while people say stupid things. They don't mean to, but they do. I have heard a few times that Betty Jane will get over it with time. You don't get over losing a child. Losing a child is not like a wall. You don't get over it and move on. And even if you were able to mount the wall and get to the other side, you are not going to run away from it when you land. You don't want to. In some aspects, losing a child is like a wall. But instead of getting over it, you must carry the wall with you, wherever you go, for as long as you live. The wall is immovable. You can't go anywhere until you learn to move the wall. You are just stuck in the same place, forever. You can tug and tug all you want. There are days that the wall will not move. And there are days that it moves ever so slightly. Over time, I have realized that in order to move forward, knowing that I must bring this wall with me, that the best way to do so is to metaphorically flood the soil near the wall with water, and have the wall float with me, instead of me having to carry it. Every act of love and kindness turns to water, and water can penetrate and move anything. It just takes time. I am on this mission to have more good come from my family's tragedy than bad. The immense hurt and pain are a constant. They don't go away. So the only way I can win this fight is for me to elevate the level of kindness that I give out to others. To convert love into water, that I can control. I have learned that the smallest act of kindness that I can do for a complete stranger has an amazing ripple effect. So I drop kindness pebbles in still water every day, and I watch the effect they have on other people's lives. It is amazing. My favorite kindness pebbles are compliments. There are times when I give a compliment to someone, and their first reaction is to ask, "What are you, a wise guy?" Because they are not used to receiving compliments, or they don't believe that I am sincere. I am. With each small act of kindness, with each compliment, with each thoughtful gesture, I get closer to winning this fight, to make more good come from this than bad. With every act of kindness, more love is generated. When more love is generated, more water is added to the soil near my wall. Eventually, there will be enough water to make my wall float through life with me, and my wall will become my raft, and it will take me to see the world. I have learned that it is much easier to travel on a raft than to carry a wall. The number of pebbles that I drop can never compare to the mountain that Betty Jane has dropped in life's water already. How is Betty Jane doing? I hope I can answer that dreaded question next time it is asked of me by saying, Betty Jane's floating on her raft. Chapter 20. A Charlie Brown Christmas. This is my depressed stance. When you're depressed, it makes a lot of difference how you stand. The worst thing you can do is straighten up and hold your head high, because then you'll start to feel better. If you're going to get any joy out of being depressed, you've got to stand like this. Charles Schulz. December 18th, 2013. It has been 18 days that Jess has been in the ICU, and she has yet to open her eyes. It is also a week before Christmas. As I am switching shifts with Betty Jane and am about to go home, Betty Jane mentions to me that she just put up the Christmas decorations at home. That is great, because I have had a long night with Jess, and I could use some holiday spirit. The way Betty Jane decorates the house during the holidays is special. I am looking forward to seeing the house decorated for the holidays. I am a live tree person myself, but a few years ago Betty Jane bought an 18-foot fake Alberta spruce tree. Just like my wife, she bought it a few days after Christmas for more than 90% off the original price, so I couldn't have a leg to stand on for my case of getting a live tree each year. A very slick move. Actually, her tree was as real-looking as any live tree that I ever purchased. Each year, for the past few years, this 18-foot tree was the first thing you saw when you entered my home. Not this year. When I finally arrived home and I opened the door to my house, I was expecting to see this humongous tree waiting to spruce up my mood and get me into the holiday spirit. I didn't. Instead, there in front of me stood a Charlie Brown-sized Christmas tree. I was so depressed. I immediately got on the phone. Betty Jane, what happened? What do you mean, what happened? She asked in a panic. I thought that you said you put up the Christmas tree last night. I did. I really wasn't in the festive mood, so I only used the top part of the tree. John, what are you doing back here at the hospital? Is there something wrong? Yes, there is. We can't be beat. We have to celebrate life the way we always do. We can't have a Charlie Brown Christmas tree. We just can't, I said. Please, go home and decorate the house the way that you always do, with love. I will stay with Jess for your shift and mine. It is important that we continue to do everything like we always do. We can't get down. We have to win this fight, I plead to her. But you're going to have to stay here for 24 hours straight, Betty Jane said with empathy. I don't care. It will be worth it. 12 hours later, I get a call from Betty Jane. It was a lot of work, but the big tree is up in the foyer, and the big wreath is in the living room, and the white lights are on the banister. John, are you there? Did you not hear what I said? Betty Jane, Jess, just opened up her eyes. Chapter 21. Tanks and Doorways. Sometimes it takes a really good fall to really know where you stand. Haley Williams. December 20th, 2013. In order to be able to have her second brain surgery, the more important one, Jess has to be infection-free for a week. It is exactly 1 week today. She is scheduled for surgery at 6:00 a.m. tomorrow morning. It is now midnight. I am sitting in a hospital room, day 28 since this latest episode began, waiting for my daughter to have her second brain surgery in less than a month, her 6th in the last 4 years. There have been a few times in my life when I knew that when I walked out of the hospital room that I was currently in, that I might never see the person that I was visiting ever again. I use the term visiting as if I was actually just visiting. It was more living with instead of visiting. The last time that this realization occurred was with my father in 2009. My dad had been hospitalized at the same time that Jessica was, with her initial seizure, which put her into a medically induced coma. Conveniently, Jess and my dad were in the same hospital, only a few rooms apart. I would visit with one and then the other throughout the night, never sleeping. That went on for 6 weeks. One night, while I was visiting with my father late at night, I just knew that the second that I dropped my father's hand out of my hand and walked out of his hospital room, that it would be the last time that I would ever see him alive again. I stayed with my dad all night that night. Even the pull of my daughter being by herself and needing me was not enough to draw me away from him. Then, deep into the night, at around dawn, I just knew that I had to go. I kissed my dad on his sweaty forehead for what would be my last time. I remember that my lips did not want to ever leave the feel of his skin, knowing that as soon as they parted and pulled up, that it would be nature's cue to proceed. I thought about protesting like that man did in Tiananmen Square, where he stood in front of that oncoming tank, but I knew that if I did, I would just be run over. So I decided to move out of the way and let nature advance. I knew that this was a process that I could no longer stop. With no audible sound from my lips, I said, "I love you, Dad," and I slowly walked out his hospital room, fully aware that I would never see him alive again. There is something that focuses you when finality is staring at you across the doorway. I walked through the door and went to my daughter's room. My father died that morning. That day, what was important in life came into focus for me. That day was the start of me knowing what I truly value in life. I knew what I did right with my father, and I knew what I wish I had done more of with him. It is at these times, when the wounds are fresh, that you get it. Getting it is the reward that you receive for enduring pain, if you allow yourself to. Well, in a few hours I will be facing that same doorway, as my daughter Jessica is scheduled for brain surgery in the morning. It is 2:00 a.m., and I lie awake, looking at her from across the room. I look past her, and I see a doorway. I wonder whether or not this will be the last few hours that I will see my daughter ever again. I doubt that I will ever be more focused in my life ever again on what is truly important. So much comes to my mind. So much that I need to do. So much that I need to share. Tomorrow, life will reveal to me if that doorway is more than just an exit. This time, I'm going to stand in front of that oncoming tank, even if it runs me over. Chapter 22. I'll have an order of happiness to go. Who could count all of the apples that come from one seed? People do weird things when they are under extreme stress. While waiting to see if Jess would survive her brain surgery, I went to a local bagel place and ate an egg sandwich. While I was there, I witnessed a very frustrated mother snap at her young daughter, who, admittedly, was being a royal pain. I saw an opportunity for me to drop a pebble, to turn love into water. I handed the girl behind the counter a $20 bill, and I said, "I'll take care of their order also," nodding over in the direction of the mother and daughter. No, that's okay. You don't have to do that," the mother insisted. "I know I don't have to. I want to." She smiled and picked up her daughter and said, "What do you say?" The little girl smiled and said, "Thank you." I responded, "You're welcome. My pleasure, young lady." She smiled again, this time turning her head in a shy grin. I picked up my bag off of the counter and started to walk to my car. The mother and daughter are walking in front of me. The mother is holding her young daughter, who is hugging her tight around her head. So far removed from her outburst a few minutes ago. Mission accomplished. I just added a little more water to help float my wall. A thought crosses my mind. There is a very good organization called Make-A-Wish Foundation that helps make a dying child's wish come true. People go out of their way and work together through many obstacles to create an unbelievable lasting memory for a deserving person. My thought is, why do we wait until someone is dying to do that? We have the opportunity to do that every day for many, many people in our lives. Imagine how much better the world would be if we all granted each other wishes that came true every day. It doesn't have to be a really big wish. Small wishes add up fast. Find someone today and implement the Make-A-Wish concept in your life, and see what happens. I really hope that Jess is okay. Chapter 23. Presence over presence. For more powerful, more beautiful by far than all of the eons of sadness and cruelty and desolation which had come before, was the one tiny crystalline second of laughter. The Little Drummer Boy. December 24th, 2013. If the definition of happiness is the difference between expectation and reality, then today is the happiest day of my life. It is only 3 days after Jess's operation, and Betty Jane and I are taking her home. Jess looks awesome. Her eyes are open, her face has life in it, and she is moving parts of her body that haven't moved in a real long time. Tomorrow is Christmas. I laugh to myself as I realize that I haven't even started Christmas shopping as of yet. Then, the thought crosses my mind that I don't need to, as I have just learned the value of presence over presence. Very shortly, my family will be together again. And that is the best gift that anyone can ever receive. Parum-pa-pum-pum. Chapter 24. The Crash. Exhaustion without reward is torture. Kerlin Ferrer. December 28th, 2013. One would think that the first few days from a long hospital stay would be emotionally uplifting. They are not. They are physically and emotionally draining. It is the time that my body releases all of the built-up frustration, pressure, and apprehension. My mind and my body have been on red alert for so long that I forgot what it is like to be calm. My pendulum had swung all the way to the right and is now starting to swing all the way to the left. The first few days home from a long hospital stay are the time that I physically and emotionally crash. It is going to be a great weekend of wrestling. First, I am going to watch Travis wrestle the second day of his dual meet tournament, and then I am going to drive Maverick to Pennsylvania to watch him wrestle in the Wilkes-Barre Open. In my world, it doesn't get better than that. I am sitting in the stands at Sachem North High School watching Travis compete. He is 8 matches into his weekend. Although Travis has won every match, he does not look good. He looks vulnerable. My heart goes out to him. I could not imagine having someone trying to physically maul me right now. I am shot. Physically and emotionally shot. I am sure that he is too. Travis is currently 18-0 on the season, ranked number 1 in New York State, and is currently on the mat with an opponent who would so desperately love to take advantage of his unknown vulnerability. He does not. Travis stems off his opponent's relentless attack to win a 6-2 victory. Maverick, I am on my way to pick you up. We will get to the hotel by 11 p.m., get a good night's sleep, and weigh in the morning. How is your weight? Dad, my weight is great, but I can't move. My back just went out, Maverick says to me in a rather solemn voice. Mav, with a good night's rest, you will be fine in the morning, I reply. Dad, I know when it is going to be fine with rest and when it will not. My back is out, and it is not getting better by tomorrow. The only thing that goes through my mind is the promise that I made to myself. Don't be Barry Switzer. Be their dad. Chapter 25. Be more proud than disappointed. If Marcus Dupree weighed 10 pounds less, he would have outrun Arizona State's defense and scored 2 more touchdowns, and we would have won the game. Barry Switzer. After Marcus Dupree ran for 245 yards in the first half of the 1983 Fiesta Bowl. The best that never was. ESPN's 30 for 30. Marcus Dupree was the most sought-after high school football player in the history of college football. He was recruited by over 100 college teams. He was considered to be the best recruit ever, in any sport. His talent was off the charts. He broke every yardage and touchdown record in the country. Marcus Dupree chose Oklahoma to play college football. He had a tremendous freshman season. At the end of his freshman year, Marcus ran for 245 yards in the Fiesta Bowl, in the first half. That is a Fiesta Bowl rushing record that still stands to this day. Let me repeat that. Marcus rushed for all 245 yards in the first half of the game. Due to injury, Marcus did not play in the second half of the game. A game that Oklahoma wound up losing to Arizona State, 32-31. After the game, Marcus Dupree's coach, Barry Switzer, was pretty vocal of his feeling that if Marcus was in shape, that he would not have gotten hurt, and he would have been able to run for 450 yards, break an all-time college rushing record that would never be broken, and Oklahoma would have won the game. After hearing from his friends what his coach was saying on national television, Marcus Dupree never really played for Coach Switzer ever again. Marcus was soon quoted as saying, "I think that I will play this year, but it may be my last at Oklahoma. It's just not fun." Marcus left Oklahoma in the middle of his sophomore year and never again approached the greatness that he showed on the field that day in the Fiesta Bowl. To this day, Barry Switzer says that the way that he handled Marcus Dupree is his biggest regret of his coaching career. There is an older, out-of-shape gentleman being shown a vintage film of a young man playing high school football. "Oh my God, wow, that boy is good," exclaims the older man who is watching number 22 in the film dodge every tackle and run 98 yards for a touchdown. Another barely audible, "Oh my God." "Who is this kid? Where is he from?" he rhetorically asks. "I know that this is me," but it is hard to believe that I was doing all of this stuff. In the next scene of ESPN's 30 for 30 documentary of Marcus Dupree, entitled The Best That Never Was, Marcus is walking on his old high school football field, looking up in the empty seats, visualizing who was in the crowd to see him play back in the day. He says, "My mom enjoyed seeing me play more than anybody." A reporter asks him, "I thought Reggie was your biggest fan." Reggie was Marcus's handicapped younger brother. Marcus breaks down in tears. The reporter then asks him, "Tell me what you are feeling." That Reggie couldn't play and run like I could run, and then just to think about the day the doctors told my mom that there was nothing else that they could do. And I told her that I felt like I just hadn't done enough. I just asked her that if I had made her proud, did I do enough to make you proud? That's all I wanted to do, was to make my mama and my brother proud. It is easy as a father of a wrestler pursuing greatness to be unapologetically demanding. The key is to be relentlessly positive as well. I have learned to be a dad first and a coach second. I have become a better coach in silence than I ever was one with constant words of instruction. When you are pushing your son towards greatness, it is very easy to overlook all of the hard work and dedication that he has put in, and to just point out what he needs to improve upon. To constantly emphasize what needs to be done, instead of complimenting what has been done. To take the fun out of it. Don't. That would be a grave mistake. Ask Barry Switzer. I have learned that there are times that I need to be more proud than disappointed. To rush for 245 yards in one half in a bowl game, what an accomplishment. It has never been done since. All I wanted to do was to make my mama and my brother proud. Did I do enough to make you proud, Mama? Chapter 26. Head-turning events. There is no getting around. Turning bad things into good is up to you. Deepak Chopra. January 8th, 2014. Jess, can you turn your head all the way to the other side? I asked Jess, just 2 weeks after she got home from the hospital, and one day before I am to leave with Travis to attend one of his biggest wrestling tournaments of the year, the Eastern States. Let me see you move your head, Jess, I repeat, giving Jess the time to take in the command. My actual thought process was to plant a seed in Jess's mind, to have her work on eventually turning her head, as she has never moved her head on command ever before over the last 4.25 years. To my amazement, Jess immediately moves her head 45 of the 180 degrees necessary to complete the command. Over the next 4 minutes, she completes the revolution of the other 135 degrees. That is awesome, Jess. Let me see you move your head back to the other direction. 4 minutes later, her head is in the exact position from where she originally started. Let me see you do it again, Jess. She does. This goes on for the next 40 minutes. Jess turns her head back and forth a total of 10 times. I say to her, "That is just amazing, Jess. That is a great job today." As if to say, "That is enough work for today. Let's rest." Jess doesn't want to stop. She continues to move her head back and forth 4 more times, for a total of 14 times in total. It is simply amazing. Jess is now sound asleep, 10 seconds after her last 180-degree turn. I am wide awake. Every one of my senses has been heightened, every pore on my skin has been opened, and every cell in my body is in motion. It is the night before Travis and I are to leave for the eastern states. While Jess is sleeping, I look over the seeds for tomorrow's tournament. Travis is the 8th seed. In order to win this most prestigious tournament, Travis will have to beat 2 nationally ranked wrestlers and last year's New York State champion. An opportunity for Travis to turn some heads, I think to myself. January 11th, 2014. At the 2014 Eastern States, Travis looks amazing. Simply the best that he has ever looked in his career. He captures the 126-pound Eastern States Championship and is named the lightweight most outstanding wrestler in the process. He even smiles during the award celebration, something that he has not done much over the last 4 years. Chapter 27. The Cycle. Life will hit you hard in the face, wait for you to get back up, just so it can kick you in the stomach. But getting the wind knocked out of you is the only way to remind your lungs how much they like the taste of air. Sarah Kay. February 7th, 2014. The Section 11 tournament in Suffolk County is the qualifying tournament for the New York State tournament. It is 1 week away. Going into next week's tournament, there are 2 things that I know. Number 1, that Travis has had a dream season so far and is 42-0. And number 2, Jess has bloodshot eyes, a bad cough, and has extended sleep patterns. I know that I am on a collision course between the 2. I think back to the night before the Section 11 tournament the year that Maverick won his state championship, and I laugh. Now, 2 years ago, while Betty Jane and I were getting Jess ready for bed on the night before the Section 11 tournament, I inadvertently pulled Jess's feeding tube out of her stomach. Betty Jane and I both stood there in disbelief as liquid seeped out of Jess's stomach. Betty Jane and I then spent the next 6 hours in the emergency room of the hospital during one of the most severe outbreaks of influenza on record. Donned in facial masks and making sure that we quarantined ourselves in the hallways while waiting for treatment, Betty Jane and I laughed to ourselves, mostly because we just wanted to cry. I remember getting back from the ER with Jess, just in time to take Maverick to the Section 11 tournament where, that night, he got to stand on the top step of the podium for a few seconds. Expect the unexpected. Be prepared for anything. That is the advice that one gives a wrestler heading into a major tournament. It is the same advice that I am giving myself. Based on my experience and calculations, Jess's bloodshot eyes and extended sleep patterns will cycle into pneumonia by Friday, the exact day of Travis's Section 11 tournament. Chapter 28. The Section 11 Parents Alliance. Do I not destroy my enemies when I make them my friends? Abraham Lincoln. It is something that you see over and over when you walk around the Section 11 tournament. It is what I call the Section 11 Parent Alliance. Parents of wrestlers who are wrestling today, shaking hands with each other and wishing that their opponent's sons wrestle the best match of their life today. You see this happen between parents who know the brackets all too well. Parents who know the depth of the Section 11 tournament. Parents who know that the difference of their kids standing at the top of the podium or standing on the wood floor may only be 1 point, 1 call, or 1 second. That 1 point, 1 call, or 1 second will turn into that 1 heartbreak that will make their heart ache, that will last all of their life. Parents whose only want is for every wrestler to have the tournament of their life on this day. Parents who know what it feels like to be vulnerable in this sport, no matter how hard you have worked, for no matter how many years. You hear, anything can happen. Everyone is 0-0 right now. I just want him to be himself. From parents who have had the humbling experience of their sons wrestling in this tournament in the years prior. Parents who know that a loss at this time of the year will crush one's dreams and one's spirits. And no parent wants that, not even for his opponent. Parents who want to see dreams captured for every deserving wrestler, but know that there will be only one champion per weight that will be guaranteed an invite upstate. So here is to all the parents who are part of this alliance, wishing that every wrestler wrestles his best tournament this weekend. Chapter 29. UIF times 4. Teamwork makes the dream work. To be undefeated in February. It is what every high school wrestler dreams of. February, in wrestling, is the postseason. The only season. The season where big wins get amplified and stay with you for life, or one loss sends a wrestler's head into chaos that he may never overcome. To run the table. To win the leagues, sections, and the state tournament. All in February. 12 matches in succession, without defeat. It is the driving force behind a year's worth of grueling practices, behind all the unreasonable sacrifices that have to be made, behind the loneliness and solitude, behind what makes up a champion. 12 matches. To a state championship. A state championship cannot be accomplished without two vital ingredients, a great coach and a great workout partner. A great coach is necessary to teach technique, to motivate, to inspire, to help you believe what they see, what they know, of what you are capable of becoming. A great coach is there in the basement training with you, next to you, pushing you, squeezing more out of you, even after you feel like you have reached your maximum. A great coach is also there off the mats, when you need a friend, when wrestling needs to become the distraction to life. A great coach knows when to coddle you and when to come down on you. A great coach is only half of the equation. Wrestling is not like basketball where you can practice shooting on your own. In wrestling, you need a workout partner, a partner who is your weight, a partner who has the same goals as you, a partner who is seeking the exact same thing that you are seeking, a partner who is unselfish, who sincerely wants to help you become better, a partner who knows when to take it to you, and who knows how to get you through a weight cut. But the problem arises when one realizes, if I am making my partner better, and he is the same weight and going after the exact same goal as me, how is this helping myself? Aren't I just making my future opponent able to beat me? That is where most people fork left when they should fork right. Two roads diverged in a wood, and I took the one less traveled by, and that has made all the difference. To achieve what few are able to achieve, you must do what few are willing to do. UIF times 4. Undefeated in February times 4. It started out with some sound advice and a change of philosophy. Why don't you two work out together and make each other better? Mike Petrovich asked Nick Piccinini and Travis one day. Iron sharpens iron. There is such an advantage of training with the best wrestler at your weight. They know how to react, to train, to push. 1 + 1 = 3. And so it started. Cooperation instead of competition. I remember the exact day when Mike Petrovich convinced Nicky and Travis Passaro to train together over 4 years ago. They were the same weight and wanted the same prize. Mike convinced them that they both could achieve it if they just helped each other get it. Champions are made in pairs. Cooperation instead of competition. 2 years later, Chris Moriello and Jimmy Leach joined the partnership, and UIF times 4 was started. To have all 4 wrestlers go undefeated in February. To win 4 state championships. That was the goal. That was something to train for, to dedicate your life for. That was something that was bigger and meant more than any obstacle. That was something great to be part of. Together, all 4 wrestlers pushed each other to newer heights. Iron sharpens iron, which sharpens iron, which sharpens iron. In 2013, all 4 wrestlers set out to be undefeated in February. All 4 wrestlers made the Section 11 finals. 2 of the 4 would win the Section 11 championship, and 2 would place second. In 2013, UIF times 4 would not be meant to be. In 2013, Nikki Piccinini would be the sole New York State champion from the partnership. Travis would place 3rd in the New York State tournament. Chris would qualify for the state tournament, and Jimmy would be heartbrokenly told that he did not get a wild card and would not be able to wrestle in the state tournament. February 16th, 2014. Another whole year of training pursued. In 2014, 32 matches into the process, UIF times 4 is still alive. Nikki, Travis, Chris, and Jimmy each became Section 11 champions tonight. 32 matches down, 16 more to go. 4 each. To a New York State championship and completion of the mission. UIF times 4. Why don't you train with each other? You can make each other better. The best advice that I have ever received. I guess that is why great coaches are considered great coaches. They teach you to fork right when everyone else is forking left. And that has made all of the difference. Chapter 30. From the podium to the 15th floor. It's a fine line between Saturday night and Sunday morning. Jimmy Buffett. After winning a Section 11 title, most families go out to eat that night to celebrate. My family did not. 15 minutes after Travis stepped off of the top step of the podium, we were in our truck on our way home, so Betty Jane could get Jess to the hospital. My calculations last week were dead on. We arrived home by 11 p.m. Jess was at Stony Brook University Hospital by 1 a.m. Betty Jane and I immediately got on schedule. She took the day shift, and I took the night shift. Fortunately and unfortunately, there are 2 weeks between the Section 11 and the New York State tournaments. It is a cruel curveball thrown at athletes who rely on a very strict discipline, structure, and routine. The week before the New York State tournament is winter break from school, a time where a wrestler's discipline, structure, and routine are tested. Winter break means having 8 more hours in the day to fill. 8 hours more to stay busy, to think, to drive yourself crazy. 8 hours more to eat. For the whole season, the routine has been the same. School until 2, practice from 2:30 to 5 p.m., dinner, Xbox, sleep. Repeat indefinitely. Now, for the wrestlers who have made it to the most important part of the season, that routine has changed. 8 hours have been added to each of their days, almost as a cruel test. 8 hours more to stay away from food. 8 hours more to stay away from your phone. 8 hours more to stay disciplined, as all of your friends let loose and take the time off from school to unwind, to be teenagers. 8 more hours that Betty Jane and I will not be around. February 21st, 2014. It is Friday night, and I am about to drive up to Stony Brook Hospital to switch with Betty Jane. Jess has double pneumonia. "Dad, I'm going out," Travis says to me right before I am about to leave. "Where are you going?" I ask. "Coach Petrovich asked me to come over to have something to eat and to watch a movie. Adam and Jimmy are already there." I smile, as it is exactly what I need right now. A coach who cares as much about my son as I do as his parent. Chapter 31. A great friend gives you the shirt off of his wall. What is a friend? A single soul dwelling in two bodies. Aristotle. "Hey, thanks for sticking up for me back there. That was real nice of you to do that," Bill Otranto said to me as we were walking out of Mrs. Netfler's class back in 1979. "No problem. Those kids shouldn't have treated you like that," I said to Bill as I walked quickly to wrestling practice. "Can I be your friend?" Bill asked me. I looked at him with a look that said, "I didn't know that you needed permission to be someone's friend." Bill misinterpreted the look. "No, really, I want to be your friend." "What do I have to do to be your friend?" I got the sense that Bill just wouldn't take the traditional silent approach to becoming friends and needed something concrete to actually initiate our friendship. So I flippantly said, "Right, do it up a trance 1,000 times and give it to me by tomorrow, and we can be friends." "Okay, you got it." After practice that night, Bill was the first one out the door. I remember seeing him running through a field of 6 inches of snow to get home so he could start writing. The next day, I had forgotten about the whole thing. So, as I was putting on my 3rd pair of sweats, getting ready for wrestling practice, Bill drops this 40-page stapled document on the bench where I was sitting. "We are friends now, right?" "You are crazy. Man, I wasn't being serious when I told you to write that," was my reaction. No, you said that if I wrote "Do It Up" a trance 1,000 times, that we would be friends. I did it, so now we are friends. You can't go back on your word. Bill, I considered you a friend way before you wrote "Do It Up" a trance 1,000 times. And that is how mine and Billy Otranto's friendship began, some 35 years ago. Not only were Bill and I friends, but we were teammates. Not only were we teammates, but we were workout partners. Not only were we workout partners, we were part of something that was bigger than both of us. Something that both he and I were proud to be part of. Bill and I were part of the resurrection of the William Floyd wrestling program back in the late 1970s, early 1980s. At the start of my wrestling career, as a 6th and 7th grader, I remember attending William Floyd's high school wrestling matches. I remember being amazed, not in a good way. I remember William Floyd being shut out match after match that I attended. Not only were they shut out, but also in one match that I remember watching, not one William Floyd wrestler actually scored a point in any match. Not one. A few things happened over the next few years. Dan Nolan, who I consider a dynamic coach, took over the program and he taught us how to believe. He taught us how to think, why not us? Why shouldn't we win? We deserve to win just as much as anyone else. By the time that I got into the 9th grade in 1979, the team was winning. Not only were we winning, But we also got a couple of big wins, and we started to be recognized as a team. In 1981, William Floyd won the Class C championship. In 1982, we won the Class B championship. Pride was a new emotion for all of us. I remember Coach Nolan getting us green and yellow mesh shirts to celebrate our championship. To be part of the ride from total obscurity to winning the Suffolk County Team Championship, no matter what class, was one of the most rewarding feelings that I ever had as an athlete. To this day, I have a special bond with every teammate that shared that experience through those building years, but none as close as the one that I have with Bill. We may not see each other in person as much as we should, but we would be there for one another in a second's notice. And we have. I for him, and him for I. A few years ago, while I was attending his housewarming party, Bill took me downstairs to show me his basement, which was a cross between a wrestling room and a gym. As he was showing me around, my eyes became fixated on a case hanging on the wall. Inside the case was a yellow and green shirt. Not just any shirt. The shirt. The shirt that we received to celebrate our 1982 Class C Wrestling Championship. That was in 2010, 28 years after we accomplished a feat that we were really proud of. "I can't believe that you still have that shirt," I remember saying to Bill in astonishment. "That has to be almost 30 years old. I bet that it is the only one still left." I am not a rich man, but I offered Bill $500 on the spot for it. He knew that I was serious. He said that he would never give up that shirt for any amount of money. It just meant too much to him. I offered again. He stood firm. I quickly joked that he better install an alarm system in his house, because I was coming to get it when he wasn't home. He did. I'm serious. That shirt meant so much to him. In 2010, Maverick was just becoming good, but far from state champ material, so Bill felt safe saying to me, "I will give you this shirt when Maverick wins the states." February 24th, 2014. Today, after spending the last 8 days and nights in the hospital with Jess, Betty Jane and I are finally home. This stay, although it was shorter in length, was a much harder stay than normal. It was a very draining stay. Instead of being in the ICU like Jess usually is, Jess was roomed in the general population of the hospital. It was a stay that included less attention, more beeps and buzzers going ignored, more chaos, and less opportunity to be still. It was a stay that almost made me cynical. It was a stay where I felt my attitude and approach on life changing, not for the better. Even though I felt these slight changes coming on, I could not do anything about them. I really needed something to get me back on track. As is the norm when I get home from the hospital, there was a ton of mail waiting for me to open. As I sorted through the mail, mostly of items that I did not want to open, there was one package that caught my eye. It was addressed to me from Bill Otranto. I opened the package quickly. It was the shirt. 32 years old, as fragile as can be, with rips at almost every seam. I picked it up. There was a note attached. The note read, "How's this for an act of kindness? No strings attached. It's yours. Your boys have done great. I'm very proud of them. Your friend, William Otranto." With the PS taking a jab about the difference in my weight since 1983. I couldn't have received a more meaningful gift from anyone in my life. You see, wrestling is all about sacrifice. It's about giving up something that you truly value to hopefully get something that you value more in return. Bill gave up one of his most prized possessions in return for my happiness, friendship, and something that he valued more: his word. It seems, in the end, that I was the lucky one that day Bill and I became friends. A good friend will give you the shirt off of his back, but a great one will give you the shirt off of his wall. You did it up, Atrance. Once again, I thank you 1,000 times. It was a gift that couldn't have come at a more needed time. Chapter 32. From the Basement to the Jumbotron. Well, we're moving on up, to the east side, to a deluxe apartment in the sky. We finally got a piece of the pie. The theme from the Jeffersons. March 1st, 2014, 6 o'clock p.m. I am one of approximately 6,000 fans that simultaneously stand. I remove my cap. I find the flag to the right of me up in the rafters of the Times Union Arena in Albany, New York, and I ever so slightly start to sing, "Oh Say Can You See?" The words to the national anthem remind me that the finals to the 2014 New York State Wrestling Championships will begin in about 5 minutes. A total feeling of inner peace and harmony comes over me. It always does during the national anthem, especially one that precedes a major athletic championship event. This time is a little different. My feelings are amplified. I look around. I take a panoramic picture with my mind's eye of the magnificence of this moment. My mind wanders for a few seconds. A thought comes to my mind of how much work and effort was needed, most of which occurred with no one watching, to get to this moment. As I finish my thought, I look up slightly to my left where I see a gigantic picture of Nick, Travis, and Chris on the arena's Jumbotron, for all 6,000 wrestling fans in attendance to see. They are each rocking back and forth, anxiously shifting their weight from the right side of their bodies to their left side. Every once in a while they get a good leg shake, as to kick the pins and needles out of their bodies. So much time has been put in by each young man in the basement of a secluded wrestling room, with no one watching. Now, together, a giant-size image of each of them is on the Jumbotron a few minutes before the state finals. From the basement to the Jumbotron. Hard work, while no one is watching, wins. Chapter 33. The Nod and Hug. Water boils at 212 degrees. At 211 degrees, it is just hot. Every degree is necessary. There are 21 seconds left in Travis's high school wrestling career. In less than half a minute, Travis will either fulfill his goal and become a New York State champion, or he will have something to gnaw at his athletic soul for the rest of his life. There have been only 2 occasions that Travis has been behind in the score at any point during a match this whole year. One of them is right now. A few seconds ago, Travis's opponent, last year's New York State champion, took Travis down. An occurrence that has happened only 4 times in the last 50 matches that Travis has wrestled. Travis now trails by the score of 2-1. There is a blood timeout that stops the action, stops the clock, and sends each wrestler to their coaches in their corner. I am holding my iPhone in my hand, you streaming the action to Betty Jane, who is taking care of Jess back home. Thank God for technology. Betty Jane can barely make out the images on the very grainy transmission. This doesn't bother her as she is too elated to be able to watch Travis wrestle live while she is home with Jess. Experience has taught me that one of 2 scenarios will play out over the next 21 seconds. The first scenario on the table is that the wrestler who is behind in the score, in this situation Travis, will feel like 21 seconds is not enough time to make anything happen. He will get frustrated, and out of his frustration will either attempt an undisciplined move or will just collapse in defeat on the mat. The second scenario that could play out is that the wrestler who is behind in the score will draw on every experience in his past that he has been in this situation, learn from it, and use what he has learned to overcome any and all obstacles with very minimum time needed. By the way Travis leaves his corner, I will know which scenario will play out before it happens. Be the first one back to the circle, I say to myself. The referee stops the blood timeout and blows his whistle for the wrestlers to come back to the center of the mat. Be the first one back to the circle. Be the first one back to the circle. To my elation, Travis jogs out of his corner and is the first wrestler back to the circle. He's got this. He's got this, I confidently repeat to myself over and over, not realizing that my voice is being broadcast to every friend and family member who has picked up the live Ustream broadcast back home. He's got this. The referee summons Travis to get set on the bottom referee's position in the center of the circle. Travis sets himself up early and waits for his opponent to get on top of him. Trav, Maverick calls out to try to get Trav's attention. There are over 6,000 people yelling in the stand. The one voice that Travis hears is his brother's Maverick's. Travis looks up to the third row where his brother is sitting and slightly nods his head up and down as if to say, I got this. The whistle blows. 21, 20, 19, 18. My hand remains calm as I am still streaming the video back home. 9, 8, 7, 6. He's got this, I calmly say again, ignoring the evaporating time. With only 6 seconds left, Travis hits a standing switch, scores a 2-point reversal, and wins a New York State Wrestling Championship. Instead of attempting to score 1 point, to put the match into overtime like 99% of anyone else would do, Travis decided to flip the script, take a pass on yelling uncle, and go after the win with everything on the line. That takes balls, I say, as Travis calmly walks over to his coaches and jumps into their arms. A few seconds after being put back down on the ground by Coach Garone, Travis starts to put on his sweatshirt, and before it is halfway on, he starts to jog. With a purpose. As he is jogging through the ice rink, he is pulling down his sweatshirt. It seems like that he has to get somewhere. He runs through a wrestler who tries to hug him in congratulations, the way Hank Aaron ran through the fan that was in the base path when he hit his 714th home run. As Travis gets out of the rink, he hugs the outskirts of the railing and starts to run faster. Along the way there are high fives and back slaps from wrestlers that he has wrestled with over the years. As he is running in our direction, I'm thinking that this is going to be a nice moment between Travis and his brother. It is not. It is with me. Travis stops his run right in front of me, 1 row down. He reaches up and hugs me. Tight. And he doesn't let go. I'm proud of you, I say in his ear. You never gave up. We did it, he says to me, and rests his ear on my shoulder. In an instant, 6 years of pain and work became joy and ecstasy. My brother Joe is all over both of our heads. After a few moments, Travis finally releases his hug and then uses his sweatshirt to wipe his eyes. It was one of the best moments of my life. 6 years of hard work and dedication for a 6-minute match came down to 6 seconds. Every second matters. Every breath is gold. Chapter 34. The Most Unselfish Act Ever. If giving is a gift, and it surely is, then my gift to you is to allow you to give to me. Jared Kintz. It wasn't until later that night that I realized what had actually happened. Nick Piccinini won a New York State title at 120 pounds. Travis won a New York State title at 126 pounds. Chris Moriello won a New York State title at 132 pounds. Jimmy Leach came one match short of placing in the state tournament. 3/4 of the UIF x4 complete and in ecstasy, 1/4 of the UIF x4 in pain. Every wrestling father has as much emotionally invested in his child's success as his son does. To say that Jimmy Leach Sr. was in some emotional pain is an understatement. Jimmy and I are pretty superstitious, to say the least. He has worn the same clothes to Jimmy's match ever since Jimmy won an exciting match in the Section 11 tournament last year. He has also sat in the same seat every match, no matter what. It is our routine to videotape each other's sons' wrestling matches, so the other can also have a video that will not make you seasick when it is replayed back home. The finals of the New York State tournament was no exception. It was Jimmy Sr. who captured the film of Travis running out the ice rink, up the stairs, and over to me. It was Jimmy who filmed one of the most special moments of my life. It was Jimmy who could have stopped filming right after Travis's hand had been raised. Instead, in his time of emotional misery, he went out of his way to capture my moment of happiness. One that I will cherish forever. One that I would never have had the pleasure to view over and over again if he did not put my happiness ahead of his misery. It takes a special person to do such, one that he is. As for Jimmy Jr., I know that he will go on and have a very successful college wrestling career. He has it in him. I have no doubt. I also know that sometimes the reward that you seek may not be the reward that you receive. I know that some of the biggest winners in this sport never actually get to step on the top step of the podium. It just may take a few years for him to realize that. It took me 26. I hope that he gets as much out of the sport of wrestling as I have from my non-win. I know that he will. Chapter 35. Wristband, or hand stamp. How did it get so late, so soon? Dr. Seuss. If given a choice, I prefer the wristband. Wrestling tournaments are physically and emotionally draining, especially for parents. Hours and hours of waiting and anxiety exchanged for a few minutes of a burst of energy from your son. For me, it is not the actual mat time that is so stressful. It is calming my mind to neutral between matches that saps my energy. During this time, my mind is like a charger left in an outlet, unattached from its phone. Constant flow of useless energy. It takes a lot of experience to realize that once you are at the tournament, all preparation work is done. There is nothing other than being overbearing that can be done on tournament day. Just let him be, I keep telling myself. Let him figure it out. It is part of the process. It took a long time to come to this means, and a lot of trust in coaches, but it is also part of the process, for me as a parent. I also had to figure it out. So now, as I enter each tournament and pay my admission, I either receive a wristband or a hand stamp. And somewhere after all is said and done, after every match has been wrestled, and I find myself recapping the last few days in my mind in the shower, I suddenly realize what this is all about. It is about lasting memories and relationships that you build through sport. If you ask the normal person how many moments in their life that they vividly remember, I mean vividly remember, I would bet that no more than a few will come to mind. The sport of wrestling has created so many vivid memories for me. I feel blessed. Memories that I would like to hold on to for my lifetime. Memories that I know that I will draw upon when I need them the most. And that may be very soon. So as I recap this weekend's competition in the shower, I look down at my right hand, and I see the hand stamp from the New York State tournament, and I realize that it will be the last one that I will attend as the parent of a wrestler. And one thought goes through my mind. I wish this hand stamp was a wristband instead. You see, the wristband lasts just a little longer. So, for as long as my hand stamp is still visible to me, my right hand will not be washed above my wrist, so the memory of this weekend can last just a little longer. Chapter 36. The Perfect Ending. The fulfillment of your dreams lies within you and you alone. When you understand and accept this, then nothing, or no one, can deny you greatness. I have been given a gift, a perfect ending, an undefeated 50-0 New York State Championship season for Travis. Just like Travis gave his brother the nod that he knew that he had this, so I give my family and friends the same nod. I got this. There are 21 seconds left on the clock. I am going to hit a switch on life with 6 seconds left to win this battle. To have more good than bad come from this tragedy. To care for and cure Jess, and to live and love life. There are a few things in life that occur that you don't ask for, that are just dealt to you. These things can define you, or you can define yourself through them. I elect to define myself through overcoming what has been dealt to me in my life. It took 31 years and 2 generations of tweaking to get my first perfect ending. Now, I am going to work on my next one. There are going to be many occasions in life where you are faced with giving up, where the normal person would not hold it against you for stopping, where almost everyone would give you a pat on the back for a valiant effort. It is at that time that you have a choice to make. You could accept the alibi that is being thrown to you by life, or you can try again. When your goals are big enough, the odds don't matter. A diagnosis is not a prognosis unless you let it be. Be the first one back to the circle, I say to myself as I start another day in Jess's recovery. Jess, can you say Mom? New release notification. To sign up for JohnA Passaro's new release notification service, send an email with your name to johnapassaro@icloud.com. In the subject, please put New Release Notification. Every time JohnA Passaro has a new release, you will receive an email notification. Contact and author info. The greatest intangible blessings that I have received by writing this book are from the people who have reached out to me and have shared their stories with me, letting me know how this book has helped them, in some small way, through their tough times. I cherish every email that I receive. I encourage you to contact me. JohnAPassaro@icloud.com. Twitter, @JohnAPassaro. www.johnapassaro.com. For readings and speaking engagements, email JohnA Passaro at iCloud.com. Book reviews. If you feel that this book has touched you in any way, or that it has stirred emotions inside of you that have given you a different perspective or outlook on life, I invite for you to leave a book review on the site that you purchased this book. Book reviews don't need to be perfect. They just need to be something from you, letting other listeners know how you feel about this book. I thank you in advance, as all book reviews are greatly appreciated.